think we can probably hit it.
Okay. All right, so let me start this off. So hi, everyone. So thank you for joining us via Zoom today. So before we get started, I'd like to ask everyone to keep their microphones on mute. The session is being recorded, and we would like to limit extra noise as much as possible. So throughout the session, if you have any questions, you can submit them via the chat feature, and we will answer them later in the session. All right, thank you. So my name is Lex Nipper, and I'm currently a junior at Hobart and William Smith Colleges from Clifton Springs, New York. I'm a Media and Society major with a minor in entrepreneurial studies. Over the course of my time here at HWS, I've been involved in Geneva Heroes, which is a volunteer program where HWS students and Geneva City School District students work together throughout the community during the spring semester. I was a participant for 1 year and a coordinator for 2. And I'm very involved in the entrepreneurial studies department as well here at the colleges. So I had created a startup venture during the end of my first semester, and a year later, I was a finalist in the pitch competition here to compete for a $10,000 grant. I was also a semi-finalist in the New York State Business Plan competition in Rochester, New York. And this past November, I gave a TED Talk on my venture in Boston, Massachusetts. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm here today with my advisor, Associate Professor and Chair of Media and Society, Leah Schaefer. Professor Schaefer, can you tell us a little bit about your own background and any recent research or projects you've been working on?
Yeah, thanks, Lex. So my research actually comprises the three of the sort of 4 areas that media and society really covers. So I do work on the internet, I do work on television, and I do work on film. The area that I don't really do work on right now is gaming, though I have done a little bit of stuff on virtual reality, but we do have faculty who work on gaming, so that stuff is covered. Some highlights of some of the stuff that I've worked on. I've done some projects on YouTube. I did a project on cat videos. I have talked about activist groups and the way that they use YouTube. I've written about Google as a research tool and augmented reality. As far as television goes, I've published stuff on the TV show The Office, and on television advertising, I did a whole project on Flow from Progressive. And I'm currently working on a project on early television pharmaceutical advertising. I've also written about film. My dissertation was about the films of John Hughes, like 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, stuff like that. So that's going to be published in a book soon. And I also make film. I've had several films in film festivals. So I think my work really represents the variety of kinds of things that faculty in media and society do. A lot of us have research all over the map. So thanks for asking, Lex. And that is the overview of what I've been working on.
Okay, thank you. That's incredibly fascinating, and congratulations. That's awesome. So also, I've had the good fortune of partnering with you throughout my time at HWS, taking several of your courses and building our advisor-advisee relationship. So in a moment, can you explain a bit more the many ways in which students and faculty might collaborate in the Media and Society department through research or otherwise?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So Lex was mentioning that she did a TED Talk. I didn't work with her that specifically on it, but we certainly sat down in my office and talked about her prepping for it and working on it. Sorry, I'm just going to mute my answering machine for a second. That's what happens when you're working from home and you have an old-fashioned landline. So to remind everyone, the question was about the ways that faculty and students collaborate together. So Lex was mentioning the Pitch project, and I actually advised the first winner of the Pitch project. I have worked with students to create offices. I worked with a student who worked in the city of Geneva and created a PR office for Geneva. He's now working for Quibi, which just started last week. I've worked with students in creating an advertising club. One of the students who started the advertising club was just hired by Procter & Gamble. I've worked with students on different research projects as well. So in addition to sort of in the community things and personal projects, a lot of research. So some of the subjects that students
going over what they do in the media and society department. And then what the other ones are is sociology.
Some of the research projects that I've worked on with folks are films of Alfred Hitchcock. I have a student right now who's doing some action sports videos. He's actually doing hands-on stuff and creating videos. I have done some projects with students who have studied American fan websites for Korean soap operas and broadcast television's coverage of climate change, fighting games versus esports. It's really all aspects of media are things that I've had the opportunity to help students develop their interest in. And this is one of the things that I think is really valuable about working at a small college, is that you really get to get invested in the separate, very different individual projects of what people are interested in doing. And that has been really super rewarding.
Great. Okay. So as I mentioned, I'm majoring in media and society, and I'm particularly interested in marketing and advertising. So I chose the studies in film, television, and new media concentration within the major. Could you explain the curriculum a bit and what options students have with the major or minor?
Yeah, so the Media and Society major is an interdisciplinary major, which means that some of the classes that you can take to fulfill the requirements for the major come from other departments and programs. So Lex, have you taken classes in other departments or programs that count toward the major?
Yes, many.
So can you think of one off the top of your head?
Yeah, one that I took was an American Studies course, actually. I took that a year ago, and it counted toward my major, and it was super interesting, definitely a really different perspective than what I'm used to within the Media and Society department, but overall it was a phenomenal course and I'm really happy that I took it.
Cool. Yeah, so one of the things that I think is great about Media and Society, it's very flexible. So someone like Lex, who's interested in advertising and marketing, can take classes like Cultures of Advertising, which specifically talk about advertising, but she can also take classes that will really sort of grow her intelligence about what it would mean to work in America, what it would mean to understand the culture of what goes into media. So that's one of the things that I value about interdisciplinarity. The major itself has a few different components, and we're happy to share with you a link to where you can find online the actual description of the Media and Society major if you want to look more closely at it. But just to give you an overview, we require that students take a class in performing and creativity, and this can be anything from a dance class to a studio art class to a creative writing class to an acting class. We require a class in critical analysis or media theory, and so the Cultures of Advertising class fits in that. We have a class called Media Theory. We have courses required in cultural history of the fine arts. Often students who are going abroad will fulfill this requirement by, say, taking a class in Italian cinema while in Italy, or taking a class in folk art of Galway while in Galway. So in addition to those core competencies, we also have requirements for you to have a concentration. So film, television, new media, which is Lex's concentration, is a very popular one because it's sort of an umbrella category, which covers film, television, and new media. We have another concentration that's very popular in cultural production, which is the concentration that people choose when they want to actually make films. We have classes in making documentary films. We have classes in doing animation. We have classes in film editing. We have other concentrations, mass media and politics. We have one in critical method and mass media theory. So there's really a lot of flexibility for you to create the major in the image of what you're personally interested in doing. We also, everyone takes a capstone class, which is a senior seminar. We have cognate classes, which are things that we think everyone should have some background in. One of them is social or political theory, and the other is global history and social consciousness. Those are things that we think anybody working in the media field or with a media education should have some basic understanding of. And we also require a foreign language one semester, or you can get an equivalency for that if you've had 3 semesters of language study in high school. So we really have, I think it's a very broad major that you can make very focused or very broad, depending on what your personal interests are.
Okay, thank you. So just another thing about me. So since I am almost a graduating senior, internships have been extremely important for me to look for. This summer, I was accepted to work for the Bizzuto Group in Hoboken, New Jersey, where I was going to be a sales and marketing intern. So for those of you who do not know, Tom Bizzuto is a Hobart alum, class of '68, and is also currently chair of the trustee board for HWS. So I have the pleasure of being able to have this opportunity of working for an alum because that is how close our network here is at the colleges. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, I will no longer be able to work there, but they are so willing to welcome me back and are currently working on an alternate opportunity, which is something that I am so appreciative of. So Professor Schaefer, are there any common themes for media and society majors after graduation? Do you see a majority pursuing graduate school or looking for specific types of jobs?
Yeah, so there are a lot of things that many media and society students do end up doing. So your interest, Lex, in marketing and in advertising, those are things that a lot of our students end up doing. We do have some students who go on to graduate work in all sorts of different things. So I'll start out talking a little bit about graduate work and then talk about some of the other things that folks tend to do. Currently, we have a visiting professor who graduated from Media and Society, and he is finishing up his PhD program in visual culture at the University of Rochester, and we're lucky to have him back on campus as a faculty member right now. So if you want to go the academic route, we certainly have people who do that. A student who is a senior right now was just accepted in the University at Buffalo's School of Architecture and Planning and Real Estate Development. So that is certainly very different than studying film production, but Media and Society got him into that program, which he's really excited about starting. We have students who currently are in the business school at Cornell. There are all sorts of different kinds of graduate study. We have a student who's doing experimental film production program right now. So all the way from real estate development to film production are things that Media and Society gets people ready for in terms of grad work. And not all of those people went straight into graduate school. A lot of people take some time off and then end up going into graduate school, and the Media and Society degree allows them to do that. In addition to further work, we have students who sometimes go abroad. After studying Media and Society, a lot of people go teach English in other countries. We have students who go and do other NGO work in other countries. We have some Peace Corps volunteers. We have also students who go directly into the workforce. A lot of our majors take whatever they did as an internship and then end up getting a sort of starter job there. A lot of those jobs are in PR, in marketing, in advertising. We have folks who go directly to Hollywood and start working in the film industry and in the television industry. We have students working in local television news and in local newspapers. We have sports reporters. There are all sorts of jobs that people get coming out of Media and Society. It is not in any way a direct pipeline to one specific thing, and I think that's one of its strengths.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I think I saw some audience questions come in, so I want to get those. Just a reminder, if you do have any, please put them in the chat below and we can see them. So let's see. The first question was, do students find internships and jobs in the media industry? Which I think you covered a little bit, but you wanted to maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've had students who are working. Well, we have a student right now who works for the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, and that started as an internship. We have students who've worked for NBC. We have students who are production assistants. We have students who work in for local news programs. So absolutely, the explicit media industry is something that folks do go directly into from Media and Society.
Yeah, and I just want to go off of that, Professor Schaefer, if you don't
Yeah, do
mind.
it.
Unfortunately, I did not have the opportunity to do this, but it's very popular. During winter break, you can go to either LA or New York City, I believe it is, right?
Yes.
For a Media and Society trip. If you want to talk about that a little more.
Sure. So every other year we'll go either to New York or to Los Angeles. And those are like 3-day trips where you spend intensive amounts of time meeting with alumni, talking with them about their path from the colleges to their current career. These are people working in the film industry, people working in television, people working in the gaming industry, and there are networking parties. There are panels where you can ask questions. There are site visits. I know people have gone to Facebook. People have gone, they went to the set of different television programs. They go to, so it's really a dynamic set of programs, and we take a group of around 20 students every year, either to New York or to LA. And I know that that's been really productive in terms of folks making personal connections with alumni, which is like the way that Lex was able to get her internships, right? So those personal connections are something that I think we do a really wonderful job of cultivating at the colleges. And it's one of the things that I think being a smaller school allows you to actually have access to in a really meaningful way, instead of just like a storehouse of like different people kind of way.
Okay, so I see another question came in. So does the Media and Society major cover modern social media strategies such as Instagram, Facebook, etc.? So is this question about if the major, like the classes themselves, cover social media strategies, or if the program, if there's like opportunities within the colleges that cover this? I don't know if Sophia has her mic on. If you turn her mic on. Sophia?
Classes.
Oh, the classes. Okay. Okay. Professor Schaefer, do you want to answer this? Or?
Well, I can certainly say that there are units in almost all of the classes that I teach where we talk about social media. I don't believe that we currently have one single class that's specifically about social media, but I know that we talk about it almost constantly. Lex, what's your experience with the social media content in classes?
Yeah, so I must say, last fall, I had the opportunity to take Cultures of Advertising for Media and Society, and that, if anybody goes here, I highly recommend that course. It's phenomenal. But we really did delve into social media aspects just because that's really important, especially with today's advertising industries. So we discussed those almost every class, whether it was memes, Twitter posts, Instagram posts, Facebook posts. My professor did a really great job of making sure that we became very involved with the advertising and media culture with that. So that was a huge one. And as far as other classes, like there are some memes or Twitter posts that we do discuss that just the discussion of either what we're talking about or maybe the certain term that we're discussing and how that works. But another thing is too, which I forgot to mention, my jobs on campus. I was a student writer for the communications department for 2.5 years. And that was an amazing opportunity because I became very involved with the college's social media accounts. So I wrote articles, but I also helped with posts or taking photos or even just going around the campus and just doing like little candids here and there or just helping and coming up with the media content. So that was a huge thing too. I know that's not really about classes, but just another thing to incorporate. So yeah.
I think that's totally relevant because the way that I think everything works on campus is that the things that you do outside of class sort of speak to the things that you do in class, and the stuff that you do in class speaks to the things that you do outside of class. And I think that that's a really vital way that that the kind of programming and jobs that people can have on campus play into the whole larger education that you get in the small liberal arts college environment.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you're welcome. So I have another question here, and it is, what is the difference between media and society at HWS and communications majors at other schools?
So communications is actually a discrete academic field of study, and communication tends to be studying, it's more of a social sciences approach to studying media. Whereas we at the Media and Society program are more of a humanities-based program, and we're not explicitly a vocational program. We're not teaching classes like how to work in broadcast media. What we're doing is we are teaching you about the history, culture, and giving you the ability to analyze media so that you can then go out and work in any number of media fields. Communication is typically a little bit more vocational in its orientation. And we think that at a small liberal arts college, what we're really giving you is the opportunity to teach yourself how to be a lifelong learner and how to use the skills and the knowledge that you get from something like the Media and Society program with its courses that range from everything from anthropology to political science to environmental studies to studio art, to create a kind of identity for yourself that could be applicable to any kind of job in the media industry.
Awesome. Okay.
There's a question. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm seeing another question. What connections do you have in the sports world, such as internships? Do you mind if I answer this one?
I would love for you to answer that.
Okay, great. So another thing, as I said at the beginning, it is so crucial to network and make connections with alums. And I will tell you a story about me with an alum. So this was it was a year ago when I was in the pitch competition here at the colleges. There was a judge. His name is Michael Rollins, class of '85, and he is also a board of trustee member. So I was a finalist in the top 4 for the pitch competition. Unfortunately, I did not win the $10,000 grant. I came very close, but I did not win. And afterward, I got a chance to talk with all of the judges and just either get feedback or for them to congratulate me. And Michael Rollins stopped me, and he had told me how impressed he was with my idea, and he had asked me if he could be my mentor. And so we had connected on LinkedIn the next day, and we met, discussed a little bit more about my idea, and from there it was the beginning of an awesome mentorship. So I have worked with him very closely. At least once a week we discuss and have an hour-long phone call just talking about what I've been up to, what I'm doing within the Media and Society department, and he is so willing to provide me with opportunities. He actually spoke with me not too long ago. I think it was in December of last semester, and he had told me about an opportunity with ESPN. So he works at ESPN as a creative director, and he is also, I believe, head of user design experience with Walt Disney World as well, which is so cool and so fascinating. And so fortunately with this pandemic, plans kind of fell through, but he did have it lined up for me to go to ESPN in the Bristol, Connecticut campus and go there and meet with people and talk with people, possible photographers, whether it be film directors too, and just be able to see like their days in the life for 3 days. And it was just such an awesome experience that he was going to provide me with, and I was really lucky for it. Also works there, a photographer, and she sat down with me too. She was so awesome, actually came to campus to talk to students as well, and told me all about her personal experiences and how they're always looking and she was willing to have other students apply. And it was a really amazing opportunity. So she showed me some of her photos that she took with whether it be NBA players, NBA players. It was so cool and so awesome. So again, that was just another networking relationship that I had developed. So yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. That is awesome. I mean, the fact that one of our trustees works for ESPN, I think really speaks immediately to a direct connection that we have with the sports world.
Yeah, yeah, it's really great. So definitely keep that in mind. But let's see, I think there's a third question here. So Lex, why did you choose HWS? So so my sister actually was a senior when I was a freshman at the colleges, but right before that I was looking at all different sorts of colleges. Being from upstate New York, I kind of wanted to stay in the area. I didn't really want to travel to a different state, but of course Warren William Smith was close to my heart, so I was like, okay, let me go there. And so what I did was I went to numerous open houses. However, I did have the chance to go and meet some professors. And I met one professor in particular, Craig Talmadge. He works in the entrepreneurial studies department. And he pulled me aside and we had probably a good 40 minutes to an hour conversation just about maybe me going into like the venture field or being interested in entrepreneurship. And the fact that he took that time out was just so meaningful, and just the fact that he was willing to talk with me about anything, and it wasn't even just to the colleges in general. He said, if you want to go to a different school, just make sure that you consider this promise in me. And I realized that he had already remembered my name by the end of the conversation. So that relationship from the students to faculty was a huge factor. Also, it's a plus that like the college is on the lake. It's a beautiful location. Geneva is awesome. But it really made me realize that if I went to a different school or if I went to a bigger school, I may not be able to have that relationship. And I think especially with my advisor, Professor Schaefer, she's given me so many opportunities with my time here at the colleges. And I don't know if I would ever have that opportunity anywhere else. So that was a huge deciding factor for me. And I'm more than happy with how it turned out. I mean, I have been so grateful for all the opportunities I've been given. If I were to tell you 2 years ago, if I had given a TED Talk, I probably would have laughed. And the fact that I have been able to do all of that and compete for $10,000 is just unbelievable. So that's why I chose HWS, and I am so happy with my choice.
I mean, I certainly would just say that as a faculty member, I think that we get to have relationships with our students at HWS. And really, my sense is that if you have an idea, you will be able to find somebody who is going to support whatever you need to get that idea to happen. And I think Lex is a great example of a person who has taken that and run with it in a bunch of different directions, right? I mean, you have like your own entrepreneurial work, but in addition, you have the volunteer work and you have working with communications. I mean, there are all sorts of different ways that you can find connections at HWS to make what you want to have happen. And if we haven't done something before, that's kind of exciting for us to try to figure out a way to make it work for you. Like I'm thinking of a few years ago, a bunch of students decided that they wanted to have a gaming program house, and they raised a bunch of money and they bought a bunch of gaming computers. And now there's like a residence hall that you can live in that's dedicated to like esports, right? And that was actually a student-driven project, right? So if you have something that you're passionate about, you are going to be able to find people who are invested in making that happen for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anybody has any questions, if you want to type this into the group chat for last minute questions, anyone?
We can also say that both Lex and I are willing to answer questions privately, like not in a Zoom sort of setting. We will both, I'm just going to do it right now, type, oh wait, I'm going to send it to everyone. That is my campus email address. And if you want to get in touch with me and say, hey, I was in the Zoom, I wanted to talk to you explicitly about my own interests, or I have more questions about the major, or I want to talk about faculty, whatever questions you have, I would certainly be happy to respond to them. I mean, I'm really just sitting here. So
Yeah, and I also just put mine in below. I am always on my email, obviously, because of classes and everything. So please feel free to reach out to me about anything that you have. So yeah. All right, and I think that sums everything up. So yeah, so thank you guys so much for taking the time to Zoom in, and best of luck with all of your final decisions, okay?
yep, stay healthy, everybody.
All right, yeah, stay healthy, okay? Bye, everyone.
Thank you.